As India has entered the Amrit Kal of its independence, the next 25 years will be a period of national development and glory. To further the bold vision of the Prime Minister of India of becoming a USD 5 trillion economy, the nation's business leaders, state governments and visionaries will have to collectively work towards this singular agenda and drive economic change.
बीते 3 वर्षों में जब विश्व कभी कोरोना, कभी युद्ध, कभी प्राकृतिक आपदा की चुनौतियों से गुजर रहा था, तो उसी समय भारत ने और भारत के लोगों ने एक अद्भुत संकल्प, एक अभूतपूर्व शक्ति का प्रदर्शन किया। भारत ने दुनिया को दिखा दिया है कि एंटी फ्रेजाइल होने का असली मतलब क्या होता है। आप सोचिए, कहां पहले फ्रेजाइल 5 की बात होती थी, वहीं अब भारत की पहचान एंटी फ्रेजाइल से होने लगी है। और भारत ने 21वीं सदी के तीसरे दशक की बुनियाद बनाई है, साल 2023 में प्रवेश किया है। भारत के इस सामर्थ्य की गूंज आज ईटी ग्लोबल समिट में भी सुनाई दे रही है। साथियों, आज भारत की समृद्धि में दुनिया की समृद्धि है। भारत के ग्रोथ में दुनिया की ग्रोथ है। भारत ने G20 की जो थीम तय की है, वन वर्ल्ड, वन फैमिली, वन फ्यूचर, दुनिया की अनेक चुनौतियों का समाधान इसी मंत्र में है। साझा संकल्पों से, सबके हित की रक्षा से ही ये दुनिया और बेहतर हो सकती है। ये दशक और आने वाले 25 साल भारत को लेकर अभूतपूर्व विश्वास के हैं। सबके प्रयास से ही भारत अपने लक्ष्यों को तेजी से प्राप्त करेगा। मैं आप सभी का आह्वान करूंगा कि भारत की विकास यात्रा से ज्यादा जुड़ें। और जब भारत की विकास यात्रा से जुड़ते हैं आप, तब भारत आपको विकास की गारंटी देता है।
Welcome to the 7th glorious edition of the Global Business Summit, a flagship initiative of the Times Group. The platform brought together visionaries, thought leaders, heads of state, policymakers, climate advocates, academicians and corporate heads to cohesively drive this agenda and exert the momentum needed to achieve this glorious vision.
For any success of any project, we need proven technology, economic viability, availability of raw material and marketability. All the things are available in India, so there is no problem about money. And one thing is very important. As a minister, I am spending my maximum time for taking review of the projects. At my meeting, I call the contractors, consultants and officers. I tell them what is your problem. And at the time, I call the state government officers. Even I take the many meeting with the chief ministers and the ministers. I feel that the cooperation, coordination and communication between the stakeholder is very important.
Conceived in 2015, the Global Business Summit 2023 seeks to provide solutions to key macroeconomic challenges being faced in the current context and put forth a blueprint for sustainable, inclusive economic growth.
India is today, because of Prime Minister's policies, the choices that he made, India has today emerged as a bright spot in a global situation which is today considered to be a very difficult situation. Many countries are going through lots of difficulties. Despite all those dark clouds, India has emerged as a very important bright spot in the world. India, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's leadership, is investing both in bricks and clicks, making sure that the poorest of the poor are getting integrated into an economy which is today increasingly a digital economy, an economy which is today growing at 6 to 8% on a regular basis, on a consistent basis.
I've spent about 35 years in technology, and I have never felt more excited about the possibility of India and technology as I do today, strictly as a professional, not as a minister. And I certainly think that this generation of young Indians today who see themselves entering the workforce in a few years, a couple of years, are the most fortunate ones that the independent India's history has ever created. These young Indians have opportunities that nobody has ever had in the last 75 years, certainly not their parents and their grandparents. And it is in no small part due to the efforts of the last 9 years by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. But it is certainly the most exciting time for those who are in tech.
The Global Business Summit 2023 has also organized many thought-provoking discussions and keynote addresses by the doyens of the industry. Jacek, CEO of Philip Morris International, also graced the occasion and spoke on the topic of sustainable economy for greater good.
As the CEO of Philip Morris International, the major tobacco or cigarette company, I have a responsibility to lead my company and inspire the industry on a path to better. As always, the change has to start from within. This is why we focus on better products, on better ways of operating, better sustainability practices. Since 2008, we have invested more than $10 billion in researching, developing, and commercializing better alternatives. All that's needed is for today's innovative, science-based products to be matched by equally innovative policies that encourage people that smokers, to switch to less harmful alternatives. This is where India can help drive positive change for the rest of the world. Given India's history in leveraging innovative solutions to solve issues of society, I am confident that India will be a global leader in progressive tobacco policies going forward.
After the invigorating address on the topic of sustainable economy for the greater good, the CEO of Philip Morris International further elaborated on his company's policies and solutions for a smoke-free future.
We're in conversation with a brand that continues to set new benchmarks, Philip Morris International, and I'm joined by its CEO, also coined the game changer, Jacek Olczak. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, sir, to kick off the conversation, the company has made a landmark strategic decision to shift directions entirely by working towards a smoke-free future. Walk us through the underlying rationale, what brought this on, why and when?
Yeah, so it's much easier to talk about this today. I still recall the conversations we had in the boardroom management teams 10 or so years ago. I think many problems which we are surrounded with will require very often a considerable amount of time to be solved.
Absolutely.
But the time starts running from the moment you acknowledge that you have a problem. And I think the pivotal moment from Philip Morris was to, we acknowledge that cigarette cause harm. That smoking cigarette is not a good idea. Smokers, if they smoke, they should quit smoking. Okay, but you know that the smokers won't quit smoking because many smokers just simply love smoking. The question is what I can do about the product to reduce the harm caused by the smoking.
Absolutely.
And this was 10 or so years ago. We started investing. We hired the first scientists. They didn't want to join us because nobody wanted to join for the tobacco company. But once they realized the potential these new products can bring to the public health domain, we have today several hundred of scientists, different specializations working on these products, proving that these products are better than cigarettes. Today we're all very happy and it's much easier to talk about this, but the decision was not that easy 10 years ago. But I believe always at the very beginning is tough. And for those of us, of those in the audience who've got the small kids, sometimes you have to push your kid to the swimming pool and this accelerates the learning. You have to be around, but then it goes faster.
Sure. Well, sir, I imagine that the decision was met with every emotion, from skepticism to support. And a question that must have truly emerged time after time is, are alternatives in fact safer? So walk us through some of the challenges that you faced in giving answers to those questions.
Yeah, so we have done a lot of hundreds of preclinical studies before the product went to the market. So we knew that we're reducing very significantly exposure to the toxicants, which find normally in a tobacco smoke.
Of course.
But we also, from the very beginning, started looking very carefully and watching how this whole thing, once the product got adopted in the market, how this whole thing starts impacting the public health. Are there any measures or early signals from the health data, for example, whether these products are better? And as a no surprise, but confirming that what we have been assuming about this product and confirmed for the clinical studies is happening in the real world. So we're looking into Japan, the market in which we started with these products about 7 years ago. We look at the hospitalization data due to COPD. COPD is one of the pulmonary disease very strongly associated with smoking. And we see that this hospitalization data starts dropping down, and this is very strongly correlated with the presence of the heated tobacco products in the market. Then we look into Korean database, 5 million adults in Korea, run by the Ministry of Health in Korea. We look at this very good quality of data. We look at the differential between diseases among the non-smokers, smokers, and the people who switch to the alternative product. We see the confirmation of the same. We look in Italy, also about the 6 years when the product is in the market, exactly the same. So now essentially every month, every week is bringing more and more data confirming that was absolutely right choice, and the science is there. The question in front of us is, what are we doing about the science?
Right.
Okay, it's no point debating whether the science is there. Is just grab the opportunity and offer smokers better solutions.
Well, so you're absolutely right in that the data doesn't lie. And speaking of data, India is home to over 100 million smokers.
Yes.
That statistic is staggering. It is a top priority health concern. It's alarming, very frankly. So how do you think the Indian market has responded to this decision from Philip Morris International, and what impact do you believe it will have from a socio-economic perspective and otherwise?
Well, it's a great and a massive opportunity for India, for the smokers. I mean, the same also principle applies to about the 200 million of the other tobacco, nicotine products users here. The same principles that the products exist today, which offer much lower exposure, if at all, to the toxicants, deadly, very often carcinogenic substances. That's in front of India. I mean, there are a few conditions, several conditions which have to be met that this change is taking place here. First, smokers have to, or the users of the nicotine products, they have to know that these new products exist.
Right.
Okay, it's difficult that the people will ask for the alternative if they don't know that it exists.
Right.
So the products have to make it available. They have to be sort of the campaigning about the explaining how this product works, that they are better, why they are better. I believe in every country what we see, once you equip consumers, once you equip society with that knowledge, people do make right choices. But they have to be informed. They have to have an access to the information and to the product. Obviously, there is a role for the regulators, Ministry of Health very often, who has to open the market and allow these products to be given, to be offered to those who otherwise will continue using the products as they are today, i.e. continue smoking, and the harm will stay at the same level.
Sure. Well, sir, aside from this very strategic, landmark business decision, as an outsider looking in, when you take a glance at the India market, how do you assess its own efforts to become a more sustainable country?
Well, I mean, India is making a progress on all fronts, and there was a very visible clear common denominator. I mean, you're applying technology, looking into the science, you have a absolutely phenomenally growing level of education in the country. So with all this creates this environment that wherever there is something new which can improve versus the past, I mean, it will be adopted here. The only thing is that, the market has to be open, some people have to touch it, learn. I actually think that the manpower and the intellectual manpower of India can also contribute in further improving the products in the market.
Right.
Because you have a great levels of a scientific education, and you could see this, abroad, how many, scientists are coming from this country, but also domestically here. I think you can essentially create the tobacco harm reduction industry out of India using, as I said, the brain power of Indian society.
Well, phenomenal. And I'd like to build on that, because while Philip Morris International's decision between opting for alternatives and the connection or connecting the dots to the sustainability angle is obvious, what do you believe the multiplier effect of this decision will be globally? That is not so obvious.
Well, always if you are leading a change, by definition also you create a lot of opportunities or benefits for your own country, for your own company, that you are the, that you are the first mover.
Right.
So that first mover advantage, applies to the companies, applies to individuals, but also applies to the countries. So as I said, India can position themselves as a champion and a leader in a tobacco harm reduction by proving that I can solve the problem domestically, and there's a real problem because 100 million smokers, 200 million, other tobacco users. I mean, that's the significant number. And frankly speaking, you can be a champion to be followed by the many other countries. I mean, you are chairing and leading a G20 soon.
Right, we are.
One of the points that you could leverage and show that India can lead on the number of in driving the solutions in a number of important to the society problems. You are championing with the sustainability, the use of the plastics, the renewable energy. You can also champion in a tobacco harm reduction.
So you know our market well, and clearly we have both the population and the platform to set forth that messaging.
Yes, well, it's difficult not to pay attention to one of the most important and largest market by any standards or by any dimensions in the world. So.
Well, if I were to take the conversation closer to home, as Philip Morris International now prioritizes sustainability at the heart of its, cultural and corporate DNA, what are some of the operational challenges that you face, or what are some of the rejiggering of the operational models that you now need to proceed with?
Yes, that different aspect of sustainability. Obviously, we're investing a lot in better uses of energies, but also driving the energy consumption in the company. And we have set our own targets, 2030, 2050, what we can achieve in terms of a carbon neutrality, etc. Also for us, because we are dealing with agricultural products, it's very important, how the farmers in many countries, including India, when they grow tobacco, do they apply the good agriculture standards so they can preserve water, that there is an issue in many places about the child labor, and we know that, the place of the kids is in the schools, not, working, so we're also addressing that problem. So, a company of our size, if you go all elements of a supply chain going from upstream to downstream, there is a lot of things which we can contribute that all of us are living a better life at the end.
So we've understood some of the operational, aftermath of a decision like this, financial aftermath, etc. What if we get down to the psychological aftermath, all right? When you have a next-gen India, or you have, a new generation of youth that are struggling between the decision of, their personal habits, how do you think a decision like this sets a new benchmark?
We're all dealing with change, and then behaviorally humans are somehow wired in the way that it's always easier to say that I am very open-minded and I'm open to change, but the reality is we hate to change.
Right.
Change is nothing else that we have learned, some repetition, some habits, and we like our life not to be changed, okay? Smokers want to do very often something about the smoking, okay? But it takes the time. I think that you need to nudge them, you need to invite them, you need to encourage them, you almost need to hold their hand while they changing. Either it was a quitting
Gradually.
smoking, very gradual. I think every time when you try to push, rush, threaten, shout, etc., I mean, we're reacting, our defense systems are activated, and we deny, right? We will not change.
Well, sir, we're in the midst of so much geopolitical uncertainty at the current time, right? So I'd love to better understand the timing of PMI's decision here, because it certainly seems to be a perfect storm of sorts. And how did you pull that trigger eventually? Because it must have been a decision that you mulled over for months, if not longer.
Yeah, so we're living in the world which is, highly turbulent, and we always, see this only from today's perspective. And the reality is that always there was a level of turbulence going through the world.
Right.
7 years ago when we started the commercialization, from today's perspective, it looks like calm waters. I don't think there were
Not
calm
the case.
waters 7 years ago.
Yeah.
The world is full of different challenges. These challenges requires numerous parties to work together. Very often these parties have to be broader than just the one country. That this international collaboration is needed.
Well, sir, on that note, I congratulate you on your brave and landmark business decision. We certainly look forward to next steps, and we wish you all the continued success to you and the larger PMI team.
Thank you very much.
Global Business Summit 2023 has been at the forefront of driving a singular agenda for scripting economic change by connecting the building blocks of economics for India and the globe. GBS serves as a conduit for corporates and governments to secure investments from domestic and international allies that will become a part of India's growth story.